Hi everyone, my name's Rocky, and today I'm going to tell you a quick story. It was the summer of 1992, a hot day. Me and my cousins decided to get wet in the sprinkler. Afterwards, we wanted a bike ride around the neighborhood, so I jumped on my bike and I forgot I had spike pedals. I pushed down with my foot, felt a pain and a tug. I looked down, there it was, my toe on the floor. Every day, individuals come into contact hazards around their home. Knowing first aid can help save an individual from bleeding out. There are 3 injuries I'm going to talk to: lacerations, punctures, and scalp wounds. My first main discussion topic is going to be lacerations. A laceration is a cut that goes through the skin, your first layer. It's usually irregular or jagged. A cut is easy to repair. The problem is sometimes individuals will ping at the sight of their own blood. November 11th, 2017, the article in emedicinehealth.com states, vasovagal cinoscope is when an individual sees their blood and passes out. This is caused by a brain reaction, which then slows your heart rate and causes low blood pressure. To stop bleeding, one thing you have to do is to apply direct pressure. You can do this by your free hand, using a cloth, using a towel, or even using a shirt. If his bleeding continues to bleed out, what you want to then do is take that cut or wound and place it above your heart. This will stop the blood flow from coming out as long as you apply direct pressure as well. Afterwards, you can just wash the area, clean it, and then apply a gauze and some antibiotic ointment. Washing the area decreases bacteria from entering the wound and the organisms hanging around. First, I talked about lacerations, how to slow and stop the bleeding. Second, I'm talking about puncture wounds and how to slow and stop bleeding. A puncture wound is an object that is basically entered into the body. This is an example of a nail, a knife, a bullet, or even a screwdriver. Knife and bullets usually equal death. The 2013 article, Puncture Wounds, Salem Press Encyclopedia of Science, a life long enough to puncture an organ. This can cause to be fatal. You can also transmit chemicals or even poison. Bacteria can also fester. This can cause sepsis. Sepsis is basically when an infection is in the bloodstream. And the only way to stop this, if caught in time, is through intravenous intervention with antibiotics. If the bleeding doesn't stop, you want to call 911. Don't hang up until they tell you to hang up. And do not pull that object out of the body. You want to leave it in there because it act as a plug. You want to then put pressure around the wound using a sterile gauze, clothing, or a towel. If the items become soaked with blood, do not remove it. Keep on adding more items and apply pressure. And then wait for help to arrive. Worst case scenario, doesn't stop bleeding, use a tourniquet. A tourniquet, you can use a blood pressure cuff, a belt, or even a rope, and tie it off. Use as much pressure as you can. Watch for hemorrhagic shock. Hemorrhagic shock is basically when the individual becomes faint, dizzy, low blood pressure, or shortness of breath. Again, wait for help. I've talked to you about 2 minor, 1 major injury, which is laceration and puncture. Lastly, I'm talking about scalp wounds. A 2013 article, Office of Public Affairs at Health University of Utah, defines a head trauma as anything to the scalp, the brain, or the head. Bleeding cause results of blood vessels trauma. There are over 2 million injuries that go to the emergency room for head trauma. 20% of your blood goes to your head. That's because of your brain and your eyes. Head injuries are minor, basically scalp superficial wounds. In order to stop the bleeding or blood flow, that is apply pressure using a towel, your hand, or some gauze. Once the pressure is stopped, the bleeding has stopped, you're going to wash the wound in the shower or the sink. Then you can put antibiotic ointment on it. If bleeding doesn't stop, continue to hold pressure and take them to the emergency room or call 911. So we taught you how to stop bleeding. Our time has ended. So I explained how to stop bleeding through laceration, deep laceration, and puncture wounds. My main point is basically to apply pressure. That is key. Pressure to any wound. Use a gauze, a towel, paper towels. Lastly, use a tourniquet. After my toe was on the floor, my aunt picked it up, put in some ice in a baggie. My uncle then picked me up, threw me in the car. We went to the emergency room. The doctors then got my toe, sewed it back on. To this day, it's functional. A little cricket, and so is the nail. Thank you.